Hey everyone, Kimberly here to share a video on my take on embodiment as of so far, as I journey with this. This video will be an extension of my previous last video where I chatted and shared around the importance that I felt around embodiment and how I feel that surfacing in the collective. I talked around how I feel this age of embodiment coming to the rise and an age of overconsumption spinning itself out. When I speak of this age of embodiment, I'm not pointing to the idea of embodiment as a new aspect, because as embodiment has been around forever, right? It's more the acknowledgement of the importance of it that I feel coming into the collective. So I just wanted to point that out off the bat. And yeah, this is my embodiment of embodiment as of so far. So I want to speak from that embodiment I have of it at this point in my journey and my understanding of it. No, there's a lot of layers to this, and I am absolutely sure that there's more out there that other people can say around it and come from their embodiment of embodiment. So I would absolutely love if anybody listens to this video and they want to share any pieces of their own or versions of their own. I would love that. But I do want to point to why I'm saying this is because this is the whole point to me, is the importance of coming from our embodiment and understanding of something rather than repeating and copying and repasting quotes from other people. Even though we feel those as our truths, and we know those as our truths, the whole idea is to then embody them and be them and emanate and come from the embodiment as of so far as of we are with it and what we understand from it. Because we're all in different spaces with everything. So if we all just copy and paste the ultimate truth, then a lot of people get left out of understanding a layer that they may be at. So if we all share from where we are, from our voice and understanding of it, then we can reach more people, serve more people, pull them into those truths more. People want to learn and know more when they hear it coming from where they understand it. So how I'm going to share my understanding of it today may reach certain people that are at a certain space on their journey with this. And some it may just not resonate with and pass right by. They may go to somebody else's. which is the whole idea. But I feel such an importance of us sharing from our own embodiment of it as we journey into deeper and deeper embodiment of these spiritual truths. This video today that I'm sharing is more pointing to people on the spiritual journey and who are looking for those spiritual truths and insights to ignite them deeper and more into knowing themselves more. So that's my foundation of where I'm coming from. We're all embodied, or embodied of something. How we move through life, what we represent, who we are, how we emanate ourselves is what we are embodied of. So if we're on this spiritual journey and we're seeking these higher truths and they really resonate with us, when we hear them, we desire to embody them. So that's where I'm speaking of, but we all are the embodiment of something. So I think what's coming forward first I want to speak around is the seeking impulse. I feel like this will kind of springboard everything else thereafter on the subject. The seeking impulse. The desire to know self. It's part of our true nature to want to know ourselves deeper, especially on the spiritual journey. Once we hit that mark of being on that spiritual journey, we start looking deeper into who are we? Why am I here? That seeking impulse is a mirror to the one seeking impulse. We are that one seeking impulse. So we, by nature, as the one, desire to know self, aka why existence exists. Why this whole experience is being played out. So we carry that very nature within us. So it is not to be abandoned. As in that seeking impulse, we begin to go to consume. We go to social media, we read books, we find mentors, we join communities, we do classes, we join groups to consume this knowledge we're looking for of who we are. That impulse, that desire to know. This is our motivated driving engine behind that learning who we are and coming into that. So we don't want to abandon that seeking impulse. But I do want to point out what I'm noticing and feeling, not across the board, but coming up pretty loudly is the seeking impulse being on overdrive with people. It feels like people are over consuming and forgetting and bypassing that next phase of embodying what they are consuming. For me, it feels like that's only being half awake. It's pretending spirituality, performative awakening in spirituality, because we know it up here. We can quote it and repeat it. But no, we're not being it in our lives. We're not moving and representing it in our lives and emanating it as who we are, even though we deeply know to our core we are those truths, those spiritual truths. So the embodiment is the next phase. And it feels like we have collectively spun into this spin of like overconsumption. And I want to speak a little bit around what this overconsumption points to. For me, it's not really, when I say overconsumption, it's not really something that's on a measuring stick, like how much we consume. Because each of us can consume a certain amount, whatever our field can hold, depending upon how expansive our field is. So it's not on a measured amount. The over-consuming points to not taking that consumption of knowledge into the embodiment. So example, we can have two people and they can be consuming the same amount, yet one person is pausing in between simultaneously and embodying this knowledge as how they move through this life, and the other one is not. Yet they keep consuming. And what it feels like to me is that they're consuming and then pushing it out, consuming, pushing it out, consuming, pushing it out. When the other person is consuming, locking it in, consuming, locking it in. So the overconsumption is the person that is not locking that in as who they are. If they keep eating. So, and it feels like as we embody more of these spiritual truths for ourselves, and we can begin to move as them and be as them, we expand our field. We open up space and we expand. Therefore, we are able to go and consume more knowledge, seek more knowledge, pause, embody. When we don't embody it, we become contracted. Our field is very contracted and the space is smaller. I've heard a phrase that people say, oh, what is that phrase? Something about if I have the bandwidth, that's what it is. See if I have the bandwidth. Well, we can expand our bandwidth for what we can take in without it being overconsumption if we embody. That's increasing our bandwidth for more knowledge. So that's what I feel around the seeking impulse. Next, we can step into what is embodiment. What does it point to? What does it mean? What does it entail? How do we embody? Short version, to embody is to give life to give body to be that here. So how? Take action. I believe action is the gateway to embodiment. Engaging, being intimate with, taking action on. An example can use is oneness and unity. This is like the biggest truth going around the spiritual community. Oneness and unity. And we feel this truth to our core. We know it is our truth. There's no doubt it's our truth. The absolute truth of oneness and unity. And that's what everything is already, right? But the embodiment of that is bringing that truth here, moving as it, emanating its truth, being it, living it, breathing it, not just knowing it. Descending those truths down into momentum here as we are to represent them. If we just keep them in a knowing state out there in the others, there's a veil of separation in there. The embodiment is the lifting of those veils. So we know nothing is separate, yet in some state of belief, we believe somehow it is by keeping it just in that knowing state. This separation. I know it to be who I am. So why do I need to represent it here? To lift those veils. To be it is to lift the veil of separation. The truth of it, the knowing of, is not something separate. So how do we do this? We start taking small steps into those truths. So look at oneness and unity, right? We can say that if we're in a group or a community where the oneness and unity is amplified in and as that group, it's much easier, right? It's safer, it's more comfortable, it's already being amplified. So it's easier to represent that. But when we step into life and our lives, are we taking that with us? Are we representing that same oneness and unity in everyday life, in all corners, across the board, no matter the circumstance? Most likely not, and that's our process here, the embodiment of that, the ultimate embodiment. And we can do that by starting to reflect on the areas where we are not always on the areas where we already are. But let's look at the areas we are not being those. Be aware of those corners. And when we see one of those corners where we are not, act on it. Disrupt it. Disrupt that pattern. And when we do, and then we shift it in that moment, we are embodying that truth a little bit deeper. Each time we be it and we practice it, we are embodying it deeper. I want to speak a little bit around body when I say body, because there's a lot of different ways that we can look at the body and what it means to us. It's a lot of different perspectives out there. So I just want to speak to how it feels for me. When I say body, what it feels like for me is not just this physical form, because that's just the reflective appearance from the lens that I am viewing through. For me, it feels like an energetic template. Like when I'm feeling my body, I feel it as a template, as a encoded and configuration of its own energetic makeup. and to be sensitive to that, and to be able to feel into that energetics, is where we can begin to be more sensitive to those areas and more aware to those areas where we are not being the spiritual truths that we so deeply believe and know are our truths. We can feel the contractions in our body, in our template. And when we do embody and take action, we are re-encoding, reconfiguring those energetic templates to new versions. That's what body feels like to me. That's how I feel into it. So, mentioning around embodiment and embodying, it feels like there's a little bit of difference in there. The embodying is the practicing of, the process of it. The embodiment, the full embodiment, is when we come into full embodiment of that truth. Using, say, Christ for an example. He was the full, living, breathing embodiment of his teachings. He was not just quoting them from somewhere, from someone else. They were coming from him as him. He was the embodiment of them. They were not just words. He breathed them into life. And we feel that emanation from that. You can feel the difference between when somebody is speaking from their embodiment, even if they don't have it all figured out, and when they're just coming from repeating somebody else's words, or repeating a quote, repeating the knowledge, but not feeling it and being sensitive to where they are with it in their body, in their embodiment of it. You can feel the difference when someone speaks. And there are a lot of embodied teachers out there. For sure, I am not denying that. There are also a lot of people out there who are trying too hard to be like them before they're ready, before their embodiment is fully where they are, and they understand fully what they are speaking and sharing. It just feels more powerful to come from where we are and our voice of it and our understanding and embodiment of it versus just repeating it. It feels like there's more power in that. So I suppose the next layer to this would be to express around why are we bypassing this embodiment? Not all of us. Or why do sometimes we do and sometimes we don't? Why is that bypassing there? Because it's more comfortable and safer to just stay in the consumption and repost and repeat and convince ourselves that knowing all that knowledge is going to transform it into reality. I don't believe so. Somebody out there might have a different view on that, but from where I am right now, I don't believe so. When we meet these, when we consume this spiritual knowledge and we meet these truths and they ignite us, they activate us, we remember them as our truths of who we are. We feel them to our core. Then we must also, if we are going to embody them and take them beyond just the knowing and the remembering to the next phase, we have to look and see the untruths that we've been holding and why we haven't moved into these truths. Why am I not living these truths? What's holding me from them? That would be the lacks, the untruths, the beliefs we do live by, the patterns, the loops. We have to look at those. Because when we want to move into and engage with these truths, they are going to organically appear. So we have to integrate, we have to acknowledge. Without acknowledging those, we can't transform and move into embodying the truths. They will stay just a knowing. Just fine. If that's what suits your fancy. But if you're feeling like you really want to be them, bypassing isn't going to work. We have to integrate all of us, all of our pieces, our wholeness. So I will give an example. Maybe this will help you grasp what I'm saying a little bit better. Let's go with, I'll use an example that I've been experiencing myself. I hear this truth through seeking and consuming, and we hear it everywhere, all over the spiritual community. You are worthy. You would not exist if you were not worthy. All of you is valid. Your voice is valid. Your emanation is valid and worthy. And when we hear this and we read it, we feel it to our core. I feel that to my core. I have felt that to my core for a while now. So I integrated it into who I know I am. My heart and my soul carried it. Yet, there were pockets in my life where I was not being that, even though I knew it as my truth. I wasn't being it. And I saw that and I had to look at it and be like, why am I not being that truth when I know it? So I had to take action on it. I had to look at my self-doubt and that lack of worthiness that I had. I had to embrace it, see that it was pointing me to, it was a gift pointing me to look at my truth. It was a reflective mirror of that truth I knew, reflecting to me that I was not being that truth. So by embracing that part of myself that I embodied, that untruth that I embodied, and moved through life as, and pulling that in and integrating it and accepting it and allowing it to be a positive thing for me, not a negative thing like, oh my God, I'm doing this and oh, I should be doing this because this is the truth and that's not. No, as a positive thing. So it's not the belief itself that can make it negative. That's it's kind of a paradoxical thing, it feels. It's how we use it. If we use it in a positive way and with a positive spin, it's a positive thing. If we look at it and perceive it and use it in a negative way, we put a negative spin on it. So put a positive spin on it. Go, okay, this is right now, I feel I'm being this untruth. This is pointing me to where I can take the opportunity to step into and take action on the truth I know I am. They're opportunities. So for me, I saw that was coming up with, I've been called to share myself for the longest time. When I say called, I mean unshakably called. Like I know that's my direction. Unbeknownst to where that will go, I do not know. I do not care. I just know I am to share. So I had to look at that self-doubt and get over it. So I decided to take a step, an action, an engagement, get intimate with it. And I started sharing my writings. So I'm called to writing. I receive transmissions and I like to write. So I started sharing those. That was a step to embodying the truth by acting on it and letting go a little bit of the untruth that pointed me to where I was not being that truth. Then, as I shared, I saw and I learned about myself that I was not sharing my writings as integrally and authentically as I felt I wanted to. I was kind of changing them around to what I thought people would want to hear, need to hear, understand, convincing myself, oh, they won't understand that. Oh, that's not written out right. Not many people are going to hear that. So I had to take the next step of embodiment into that truth of worthiness and start sharing my words authentically as they came through me. Maybe messy, maybe unclear to some, but authentic and real to who my embodiment is at this moment. And allowing my encoded system, my body, to expand with it, open up space for that to be. So I did. And it felt good. And I embodied more of that truth for myself. So now I am being more of that truth with my writings for myself. Then I decided to push my next edge because I felt the next edge coming. And I heard the knocking. Share your voice. I was like, oh, shit. Self-doubt still lingering around, pointing me, being that opportunity for me to see it was there, and I still was not embodied fully of my worthiness. So I decided to engage. And here I am, sharing my voice, embodying that truth of my worthiness deeper. So the embodiment is an embodying process until we quantum leap into the full embodiment of it. And we are the living embodiment of that thing, whether it be unity, unconditional love, oneness, worthiness, abundance, all these truths we know we are. We need to keep embodying until we be them in every pocket, every corner of our lives. We become the living embodiment no matter the circumstance. And as we embody and we become this embodiment, our bodies are encoded, re-encoded, reconfigured, recalibrated. Those templates get recalibrated and new versions come on board. And our reality changes perspectively. Perspectives don't change just here. They change through our embodiment and seeing things different because we have embodied these truths. It's disheartening for me to see so many people skipping over this phase. I get it because I did it myself. I get it. But I feel like the next evolution of spirituality is going to be for us to rise into this. And the importance of that embodiment and not just the knowledge itself and having that knowledge. Yeah, I guess I got a little passionate there about that for a minute, but that's okay. That's where I am with it. So I want to speak a little bit around, because this was something for me that came up and I still feel it out there in the spiritual community, is people, and I've been using both the words right here in this conversation, integration and embodiment. And I hear people using the word integration and I hear them using the word embodiment. And I would like to speak of my understanding, my embodiment of that as of so far. Coming from my embodiment. Can you feel that? There's going to be other knowings and other knowledge and other wisdom out there around it. I'm going to speak from me, from my embodiment, and learn from myself. Our greatest teacher is ourself if we listen and we're present with ourselves. We are our greatest teacher. Others out there surely help, surely guide, But in the end, we are our greatest teacher if we are very present with ourselves and with our bodies and sensitive to everything. So, what is the difference for me between integration and embodiment? And I can feel now that I've integrated this a little bit deeper and embodied it a little bit deeper. When I speak, I can use the terms to fit. Sometimes I get it wrong and mess it up, but I can feel myself kind of folding into that. Integration feels to me like the precursor of embodiment. What I mean by that is it feels like the first phase of the embodiment itself. So it is a part of embodiment, but it feels like what comes before the actual action of embodiment. So we hear a truth, like I said just a little earlier in this conversation, we hear a truth and it really lands for us, like me using the example of worthiness and hearing that I would not exist if I was not worthy. I integrated that truth. I pulled it in, I let it land in my system. It activated something in me. It ignited something in me. It re-encoded something a little bit. Enough for me to know without a doubt that is my truth. That's the integration. It's almost like the fire that pushes us to then want to embody those truths. Integration can also point to when we are moving into and engaging with these spiritual truths and our lack beliefs and the limits we hold from being and representing those truths here show up. The non-avoidance and not hiding from them and pulling them in and letting them land in our body and accepting them and loving them and seeing the gift they are to us and the opportunity that they offer us as they're pointing us to where we are not those truths. We integrate those in so that we can move towards embodiment and thus then let those untruths go. That's the letting go and the transforming. Integrating those untruths in, using them for the opportunity that they offer us, using it up, using all the energy up, and then letting it go in pieces. The embodiment is the next phase after the integration. It's where we take action on moving towards those truths as being them, living them. We take action on that integration, not just keeping it as a knowing, but moving it into being, moving insight and knowledge into being. Yeah. So that's what I have to say around integration and embodiment. And I feel like I've hit all the notes I wanted to hit. I hope this lands somewhere and activate something within you. Again, speaking from my embodiment, knowing I don't have it all figured out yet, knowing I will embody more around it. And then I will speak from that place of embodiment. And this, I feel, is very important in the evolution of our spirituality. I feel it is going to really help us rise into those truths deeper. The age of consumption is going to spin itself out. Overconsumption, shall I say. Consuming is good. As long as we pause and embody in between. So let's just do a quick summary of the process of embodiment. It starts with intention, the process of the intention of embodiment. Now that we've spoke about it, now we feel this, I am going to embody this, all of a sudden this new intention arises, right? So this is about the intention of embodiment. It starts with the seeking, the desire to know, the desire to transform, the willingness to transform. And we consume to ignite, to remember, to activate ourselves. To gain that willingness and that devotion and that conviction to want to take it further. We integrate. We light that fire inside of us with it. Pull it in and let it land in our system as a fire, as a North Star to point ourselves to. Whilst we also love and accept the opportunities that we get from the lacks to point us to where we are not being those truths. Otherwise, we wouldn't know. Simultaneously. And then we hold those integrations in our body as the fire builds. And then we take the courage to act and practice them. Be them in our lives, not just in the easy ways where they show up easily, like I said, in a group or a container where it's already amplified. This is great too, but take it to new edges in your life where you see it showing up and you are not being it. Cross that threshold. Step into that area. Embody it there. That's embodying it deeper. And then the last is from the integration, we act and we embody until we quantum leap into the actual ultimate embodiment of it fully. Something just came up. I just want to mention that sometimes our embodiments can be unknown to us, right? Of what they kind of look like. I want to give you an example of this. Of what I mean is, I have a friend who has known that she is to travel. She's known this forever, like since I've been her friend, and before that. Something that's just come up in our conversations over and over. I just know this about her, right? She has a call to be a nomad. She doesn't have all the reasons as to why. She doesn't know exactly what she's going to find. She can feel into it. She's sensitive when she feels into it and kind of what it means to her. And she's picking up pieces of the puzzle along the way as she embodies it. But she had to work through the opportunities to look at her lacks and her limits that she held on herself to keep her from this calling. And this is what we do. We get stuck in these patterns and these loops. And she worked on those, and she acknowledged them, and she took the opportunity to step beyond them. Even though she couldn't see what this traveling was really fully pointing to, and she still doesn't have a 100% knowing of that. Sometimes we just have to step into the unknown because it calls us, undeniably calls us, and we know there is something to be embodied in it. More truths for ourselves within that. And then she just finally took the quantum leap, moved past her limits and her lacks, and took action. She gave up her apartment, her car, her life, everything. She's packing everything into a couple bags, a suitcase and a bag, and she's off. She's going to embody in that action whatever it is out there that she needs to embody. This is the embodiment, the action, the experience, the engaging, the being intimate with those callings. I just really felt to share that. So sometimes our embodiment is not really seen, it's just felt. And that's what I mean by being sensitive with our bodies, with our templates, with our energetic field, in those pulls and those calls that we feel. It's like me with knowing I needed to get my voice out here. I don't know why. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know all the reasons behind it, but it calls to me. So I'm going to embody it. There, that feels complete. So that's it for today. It felt like it was pretty long, but it felt like there was a lot of layers in there that I wanted to touch on. And that's it. That's a wrap. That's a wrap on my wrap. Okay. Bye-bye. Happy embodying. Bye-bye.